So as I write, Train to the End of the World has one episode, only 17,000 members on MAL, and just barely cracks a 7 out of 10. But I'm calling it now. This show could easily be at least my personal anime of the season.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This is, so far, this season's perfect, what the fuck is this? How does this exist? What am I watching? Kind of anime. In the best possible way, of course. I love that kind of stuff, and if you do too, you have gotta get on this one. It's being directed by the same guy who brought us Shirobako, as well as Girls und Panzer. It's being produced by the same guy who brought us Akiba Maid War. And suddenly everything's starting to make sense. It's got an utterly absurd anime original story, produced by a studio I would never have expected to produce something on this level, by the way. It's well animated, it's obviously got competent direction with lots of interesting point of view angles. The only 3D I noticed was mechanical train stuff, which never looked particularly bad in my opinion. And the action is so kinetic, I literally thought that my player was still stuck on increased speed from the last bad seasonal show I watched. It's got moody lighting, tons of dynamic shots, adorable character designs, like actual world design, including a totally fantastical sci-fi space landscape, and somehow also literally the best nightscape shots I've seen since Call of the Night. It's genuinely funny, in a sea of recurring gag shows that can barely make me chuckle the first time, and it also has absolute bangers for the OP and ED. Having seen so much of their work, I cannot believe that EMT Squared has produced a single episode like this, even with such a great director and all the talent I'm sure that he pulled along with him. Like, I've watched Assassin's Pride and Love Tyrant. I've seen clips from Kuma 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 Bear, and I didn't think that they were poorly produced or anything, but this was just awesome, like multiple levels above any of that other stuff. So anyway, the show opens with a little bit of train footage, followed by a train POV shot as the train docks in its station. There are gonna be way more train POV shots, by the way. It's basically train POV shots all the way down in this show. In walks one of our main girls, Yoka. She's just walked through the ticket checker thingy and poof, a celebratory balloon pops open, confetti flies forth, old men are shouting congratulations all around. She's the first entry or the millionth entry or something, I don't know, but I'm laughing already. Out of the sky, a giant mechanical owl drone swoops down and grabs her up, probably faster than I can read this line, and before you know it, she's plopped down on the roof of the building. There's this announcer dude with crazy hair looking like the CEO of Palantir Technologies or something, and he's going on and on and on about conspiracies, his old rivals in business technology, 5G and 6G and 7G. Don't listen to the lies. They said it couldn't be done, but I did it. 5G is triviality, 7G is reality. What am I even saying? Anyway, Yoka is just standing there blank-faced, not saying a word, looking like, dude, I don't care. What is this? What is happening? Do I really have to be here right now? The announcer will not be deterred. This is the opportunity of a lifetime, young lady. Open the future. Open the future. Okay, so I made up the first line, but he literally says that last part, I swear. So to avoid being bullied any further, she presses the giant glowing button labeled 7G that lies before her. And suddenly the city begins morphing into a surreal, psychedelic dream sequence-like world all around them, as their bodies are pushed and pulled out of their natural shapes. She rushes to unclick the button, and that almost seems to help a little bit, so she presses it again. Cut to black and the opening plays. It is a fucking banger. Pretty weird, but still a banger. And I mean seriously, visuals first. Look at that freaking reverse zoom into space and out of Yoka's eye. Or this one into Shizuru's and back into space. There's awesome dynamic shots of all our girls hanging out with trains and train accessories. The most adorable little sing-along shot. More train shots and crop circles and watercolors. Have I mentioned how dynamic and expressive this all is? They've got these zooming and parallax panning shots of the girls, hyper expressive, posed, hair flapping in the wind, looking all cute and shit. But music. The song itself starts as a surreal melody with harmonized vocals and jazz claps and synths and stuff, but it transforms throughout multiple phases, including one that's barely not literal ambient music. And before it's over, it is transformed into this super catchy J-pop jingle that you cannot get out of your head, and then
2 years later.
Yeah, just like that, we jump straight to the after effects of the 7G event. We hear some out-of-context dialogue that we'll later find out is career consultation. Some teacher lecturing a student about how she's not taking her studies seriously enough, and how she's never gonna have a career in the world like this, and then he catches himself remembering that the world has now changed forever, because turns out the teacher is an iguana. So, all of the adults in the city are now animals, and everyone turns into an animal when they turn exactly 21 years and 3 months old for whatever reason. That might sound bad, but apparently there are places where they turned into trees instead. Yikes. There's also literally a line where they talk about how they're lucky they don't have to pay for health insurance or pensions anymore. I love the dialogue in the show, in case that's not obvious. However, our alleged actual main character theorizes that they'll probably eventually lose all sense of humanity and go full animal, which kinda makes sense because this old bear dude went full feral for a minute there and almost ate this poor girl's ass. Luckily, Shizuru knows Juijutsu, so she punches that bear right in his ugly face, and somehow that works. Probably because the animation is so fast. I mean, think about how much momentum must have been behind that swing. Yeesh. She also says some stuff about how the electricity is now totally unreliable, to the point that if you run the microwave and the fridge at the same time, the breaker will be thrown. She literally questions if what they're using is even electricity anymore, and seems to imply that the creators of 7G may be the ones who are siphoning up all the energy, causing the lack thereof in the average populace. There's also an old man named Zenjiro-san who just hops around going, choo-choo, choo-choo. But at least he didn't turn into an animal, am I right? Once again, the story is utterly absurd and I love it. But as it turns out, ever since the event occurred, Yoka has been missing. Shizuru, our alleged main character, has been the one making the biggest effort to look for her, and has been trying her hardest to get help from those with more resources and information than herself as well. But wait a moment. Is that music I hear in the distance? In through the darkest of tunnels come bright, massive, armored buses blaring the anime J-pop version of an ice cream truck theme for all the world to hear. They're bringing in supplies and a couple of gift requests for all the girls as well. Turns out all the other supply corps have been ravaged by the dangers of the outside world, such as bears. Only this one supply corps now remains. To make matters even worse, apparently the 7G incident also increased the distances between train stations, supply routes, and the like to incomparable lengths. A kindly supply worker brings our girls their gifts, but as it turns out, even with his access to the outside world, he still has no information as to the whereabouts of their dear friend Yoka, who disappeared on the day of the 7G incident. But what's this? A crumpled up newspaper that slipped in with the supplies, used to wrap one of the main girl's gifts? Shizuru picks it up and, oh my god! I say as dramatically as my lack of theatrical training will allow. They still making newspapers? Where they do that at? Anyway, it's a mysterious black and white photograph of Yoka with the 7G crew. She has a blank but somewhat pained expression on her face, and turns out they're stationed somewhere in Ikebukuro. Unfortunately, as mentioned before, along with the apocalyptic setting and all the humans turned animals, this cataclysmic event somehow placed a nearly unimaginable amount of distance between locations, somehow expanding the landscapes. And of course we're told repeatedly that the outside world is mysterious and, more importantly, extremely freaking dangerous. Therefore, the prospect of them traveling to Ikebukuro, no matter how close it might have once been, seems almost like a pipe dream. But the girls do run as fast as they can to inform Yoka's grandmother, who is a tiny little hamster by the way, that her poor girl is still alive out there somewhere, and the grandmother cries a few tears of joy. And to quote my boy Booba T, you ever seen a hamster cry? Listen closely. You can hear the tears softly hit the tatami mats. This is very well done. This is emotional. So anyway, the girls continue their daily lives for a bit, but Shizuru eventually sees that poor old man who was cursed to be old and hop around only uttering the words, choo-choo, choo-choo, for the rest of time. Yoka's dog also keeps following him around for whatever reason. In retrospect, there's probably a familiar scent that he's smelling on him. Just a guess though. Anyway, the old man is walking along the train tracks and Shizuru is rightfully worried about him. But when she approaches him, he drops a cap string of some sort and finally utters a unique word. Boshi. That means hat. I learned that on Duolingo. They walk together to the train, and Shizuru is actually able to find the old man's conductor cap. Seeing that the poor old man clearly wants to wear his treasured conductor's hat once again, she plops it down on his head and poof, he's a sentient young man again. And Shizuru screams that classic anime scream of confusion. He's ranting and raving with righteous fury. Turns out he used to work with that crazy 7G Einstein wannabe mother trucker, and he's furious. He's gonna take that train to Ikebukuro and he's gonna show him what it's on like. Poof, he's an old man again. She keeps trying to put the hat back on, but unfortunately he can only maintain his ultimate form for a few minutes at a time, and constantly shifts back into an old choo-choo man, but only in the middle of important sentences. Anyway, like a few weeks later I guess, she shows back up at school and announces that she's dropping out. Smell you later, fools. I found a career after all. I'm gonna be a train conductor. Predictably enough, just as she's about to take off in the train, love the train starting sequence by the way, her friends who obviously chased her down decide that they're coming to look for Yoka too, and so is her unreasonably large and adorable dog. And the ED plays. This one's way more of a traditional banger song-wise, but it's also way more of an experimental ED visually, with lots of long train shots and yes, more train POV shots. Don't get it twisted as just lazy though, it's got parallax camera effects, some more awesome nightscape shots, mysterious, moody, and magical frames, and a lot of subtle slow zooms on the horizon. Stuff that you wouldn't really notice unless you were looking for them to be honest, but I appreciate every detail. Now I should once again mention that this is an anime original, so there's really no telling what direction the show goes in now that the girls are indeed on the train and moving. And we probably shouldn't expect every episode to look this good, but as long as every episode is this absurd, this funny, this kinetic, this full of weird music, and hopefully this visually pleasing, please, I think I will be quite happy. My only real fear is that the show might eventually try to suddenly and unnaturally go in an overly serious direction, like many previous anime obsessed with the idea of subverting expectations at the last minute. But I think they've done a good job of leaving themselves open for both comedy and whatever drama might come along with their journey to get Yoka back as well, without betraying audience expectations. Anyway, 10 out of 10 episode, this video was brought to you by 7G Technology. 7G is reality. Anyway, this was probably a total mess. I wrote the rough draft in a 15-minute long fever dream of a typing spree, which is how I imagine this show was probably written as well. But anyway, I just had to signal boost this show a bit because you can tell there is a ton of passion behind the project so far and not a lot of attention on it. In many ways, the show represents to me what an anime original should be, the sort of utterly absurd type of story that you cannot find anywhere else, that you would never see in a show that's adapting a safe source material, here presented with lots of weird experimental decisions. Now look, I am certainly biased. I love sci-fi anime, and this is obviously that. I love all these sort of how does this exist type anime, and this is obviously that. I love cute girls doing cute things anime, and this is obviously that. I love passion-driven anime that teach you weird stuff about specific topics, and I hear this one's actually a celebration of 150 years of railway in Japan, so it's kinda looking like this could be a holy quadfecta of all those things. So perhaps take my passion with a slight grain of salt, but damn I'm excited for this one. There are a lot of shows airing this season, new and sequels alike, and even out of the handful that have begun airing already, I've quite enjoyed a few of them. But this right here is special. This is one to look out for, and I will no doubt be continuing to watch it come production hell or high water. Anyway, peace and sayonara. Spice and Wolf remake impressions soon.